Hello, everyone. It's good morning here. So I was going to say good morning, but it's noon in Montreal, and in some places it's afternoon. We we have a question. So can everyone hear me? If you can't hear me well, please write it down. Write down in the question box. Yes. So confirmed. Wonderful. Okay. Awesome. Well, let's get this talk started. So welcome everyone to our fourth talk of the e-seminar series on translational biomedical engineering. As usual, I have a few housekeeping notes before we start the today's speaker's talk. This talk will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch the video again and listen to our speaker's talk again, you're welcome to watch it on our YouTube channel. But I recommend you to subscribe to our channel to receive up-to-date videos. Also, the link will be sent to you in a follow-up email after the meeting. If you have any questions during the talk, please use the raise hand button or write your question in the question box. Today is the last day that we're going to use this platform. As of next week, we will be transitioning to a new platform which has some interesting features. The platform is called Crowdcast. We will update you via email how to connect to this platform. One of the unique features of Crowdcast is that you can vote on the questions. So the questions who have the highest vote will be highlighted, and then we can then ask those questions. So there will be a voting kind of a system involved in these kinds of for the questions that will be asked. We will send you a link to a survey after the talk. This is very important for us to receive your feedback. So please participate in the survey and provide your feedback on our job in organizing this e-seminar series for each talk, and then also for the speakers. Speakers are very interested in hearing your thoughts about their presentations. So we really appreciate the time that you put in to provide us with your feedback. Our next speaker is Dr. Kazemzadeh from the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing talk. This is our first speaker from a regulatory agency, and he is going to talk about regulatory overview and pathways for medical devices. Very important topic. I highly recommend you to participate in the next talk, and this talk will be sponsored by TransMedTech and MedTech from Montreal. As always, you're welcome to contact us as organizers, myself, Dr. Sawaji from University of Montreal, and Vahid from McGill. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to communicate with us, and also don't forget to follow us on Twitter. We keep you updated with the recent up-to-date news and information about this e-seminar series. Last but not least, I would like to appreciate the support that we have received from our sponsors. Revolution has been extremely supportive of this e-seminar series. Revolution is a biotech company that develops mechanical testers particularly devices and mechanical testers that measure the mechanical properties of biomaterials and tissue using a non-destructive method. And also, I would like to thank and acknowledge the support of 4M Biotech that developed smart wound dressings for management of slow healing wounds. Now let's introduce our speaker, a great speaker we have today, Dr. Hadi Shafiee. He is a faculty member at the Division of Engineering in Medicine and Renal Division of Medicine at the Brigham and Women's Hospital division, and also he is affiliated with Harvard Medical School. I know Hadi for a long time, and then I have been following his research for a long time, for maybe 10 years, and then his research is revolves around the integration of biology and medicine with micro and nanotechnologies, and he uses these advanced concepts and technologies to develop innovative tools to solve unmet clinical problems, including problems associated with infectious diseases such as HIV and viruses, Zika viruses before, and then now coronavirus. He's actively involved in projects that are related to the diagnostic and detection of coronaviruses. His research also has applications in cancer detection, early cancer detection using biological markers, blood samples, and then other biological markers. So his work has been published in highly regarded journals, including Science Translational Medicine, Nature Communication, and some other high caliber journals. And his work has been recognized by many media outlets, including Science Daily, Nature World News, Science World Report. I saw his interview with CNN, and also some other famous and popular science media outlet. His work on developing paper microfluidic technologies for point-of-care viral load measurement received multiple awards. Just to name a few, one of them was the 2014 Brigham and Women's Hospital Bright Futures Prize, and the other one was the 2015 Innovation Evergreen Award from Harvard Medical School. So today, unfortunately, we had some technical issues with Dr. Shafie's camera. However, it didn't stop us to. It doesn't stop us to hear his fantastic talk. Although we may not be able to see Dr. Shafie's face during the presentation. Hopefully, after the presentation, we will find a way to activate his camera, and then you can have a face-to-face communication with Dr. Shafiee. So with that, I would like to pass the basically this presentation to Dr. Shafiee. So Hadi, welcome to this e-seminar series. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Mohsen. Thank you very much. I'm gonna try sharing the screen to see if it is gonna work. Show my screen. Okay.
We have the same background, Hadi.
Do you see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, hey, Mohsen and Hooman, thank you very much. This is really a great opportunity. You know, I gotta be honest with everyone. Looking at the list of the guest speakers you guys have lined up for these e-seminars, I'm the least experienced, and you know, as Mohsen mentioned, we've been working together, we've been friends, close friends for quite some time. And, you know, when he reached out, so I literally couldn't say no. And basically, when someone gives you an opportunity, you should take it. So having said that, the stuff that I'm going to share with you, the personal stories and all the experiences, you got to take it with some sort of a little bit of a salt, and and think around it. It's not, it may not work for you or something like that. And by the way, I had a problem with the Google GoToMeeting account, so something went wrong. So hopefully after this, maybe we can switch to the laptop camera so we can see each other or something. So I really thought about, what I can share with you guys that probably could be helpful. This is a different type of presentation that I have done over years. It's not really that much technical. So I think looking at the things that you want to do, I think it's really, really important to try to kind of understand why you're doing what you want to do or what you're about to do, right? Why do you go to graduate school? Is it just you want to get a degree? You want to get a higher education? Why are you working in a research lab, doing bench top work, for quite some long hours? Is it because your boss told you, your mentor told you, because, you really want to just get a paper published and land a job or something like that? I think in translational medicine and entrepreneurship, this question becomes really, really important, right? Why do you want to do translational medicine, right? And basically, why do you want to focus on developing this particular technology, particular device product that you're thinking about, right? And I think, to do that, you really need to go outward from why to what you want to do. I think this is really important. And I guess, if you look at people, I believe that almost 100% of people, a lot of people actually, or companies or organizations, know what they're doing, right? They know what they're doing from outside. Some of them, they know how they're doing it by, understanding your technology, understanding your intellectual property, understanding the value proposition that you are, providing, bringing to the market, understanding your market size, your, technology differentiation, things like that. But very few companies, very few people actually know why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that is, like, what is your drive? What is your belief? So I think this is really, really important, and that makes a big difference, right? And and that's not an easy question to answer, and I'm not saying that I know that, right? But what I realized is that you really don't need to start with a big answer. You don't need to have a big purpose, like a big drive, to do what you're about to do. And obviously, second point is that, my why could be completely different than yours, and that's not important. It's important that you have a kind of a drive, a belief, and then go after that. And you need to get an answer, even if that answer is kind of temporarily, right? Does it make sense? And to get things started and then go to the next step. And if you have a big purpose, already, if you have a big dream, I think that's really great. But if you don't have it, start with something really small. And And one more thing that is really important is that no matter if you have a big dream or a small dream or big purpose or a small purpose, you know, you have to start small. This is really important. And then build your story upon that small, you know, thing, small matter, small project, small product, right? So let me give you one example, right? So personal story, right? You know, when I came to US in 2006, I knew nothing about biomedicine, bioengineering, translational medicine. I was literally a pure mechanical engineer with a lot of math type of work done. What I'm showing here is basically 2 pages of the paper that I published back in University of Tehran when I was doing my master's degree in mechanical engineering. As you can see, it's all math, right? It has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. But when I came to US, I didn't know about the things that were happening at the time in the US. I didn't know about the bioengineering and stuff like that. But then I asked myself, what do I want to do? What do I want to get out of my PhD? I have come all the way to this country and I'm gonna spend like 4 years, 5 years doing, you know, like work, additional studies, research. So do I want to do something really different? Or do I want to continue what I used to do? And actually, when I came to Virginia Tech, I was at the division of Department of Engineering, Science and Mechanics, which was a different department than mechanical engineering. It was more focused on basic science, right? And I was supposed to actually work on similar materials, right? But then I asked these questions and I found like bioengineering, I found that there are things that make me excited, but I don't know about it. I had zero experience in biology, cell biology, cancer, stuff like that. So then that became my why. I decided to spend my time during my PhD to do something really different. I decided to throw myself into an unknown project, unknown field, and but I felt that it is an exciting avenue, and that became my why, and that helped me a lot to really overcome lots of challenges. You know, when you do when you go to graduate school, you know, I mean, you're going to face lots of challenges, and particularly, you know, if you come from a different country, different culture, different language, and if you want to change your field, okay, so that becomes really challenging, that becomes difficult. And if you don't have a good rationale, okay, around that, it's gonna beat you, right? You're gonna fail, and that's true everywhere, right? So then that was the time that actually I decided to do, you know, bioengineering, and I did that, and with that strong rationale, I mean, that was a good rationale for me. You know, it may not be, it may seem trivial to you guys, but that's my point. It is not important. You have to find something for yourself and believe in it, and then stick to it, right? And I did that, and I finished my PhD in a different field in almost less than 4 years, published 4 papers, and then that opened the door for me to go to the next step, which was Harvard MIT Division of Health Science and Technology to do my postdoc, right? And, you know, by the way, you know, I had a great opportunity to work with a phenomenal person, you know, Raphael Davalos, who was my PhD advisor back in Virginia Tech, who came from Berkeley. And like I learned many things from him. And so I think what I'm trying to tell you is that, you need to find that why for yourself, and you need to, and people actually don't care so much about what you're doing. They care about why you're doing it, right? And let me give you one example here. So if I tell you that I have developed smartphone-based microchip technologies for male infertility testing and ovulation testing, and they're the most accurate, the most sensitive, rapid, low-cost systems available in the market. Would you like to join us in our business? Right? That's one approach. The second approach is that infertility is a growing problem worldwide, right? And millions of couples are under so much stress when they try to conceive, but they're not successful, especially now that people get married at a later age. And on the other hand, a significant portion of pregnancies are unintended, which can lead to significant social and economic issues. Now, our mission in this company is to empower families, right? Both in the developed and developing countries, by providing them with these home-based fertility products to help them to manage their fertility issues. And our products and technologies happen to be the most affordable, simple to use, accurate, and rapid home-based fertility products in the market. Now, would you like to join us? Right? So these are two different approaches. The first one, a lot of people actually choose to pick the first one. You start with what you have done and you try to sell it. It doesn't work, right? So these are really different, and you got to start from inside out, from why to what you're doing, right? So now I'd like to talk about, some factors that, others have done, studies around these to find out basically what really matters for a startup to succeed. Is it the idea that you have? Is it the execution? Is it the business plan you have? Is it funding? Is it timing? Is it too early? When we're talking about timing, is it too early, too late? What's the competition and all that? So someone called Bill Gross, who actually founded many companies, and then he founded Idea Lab, and through Idea Lab, actually, he co-founded more than, I believe, 100 companies. He became interested at some point of his life to do a research and investigate to find out which one of these factors actually matter the most. And then he looked into the data from tens of companies, big, small, big failures, small failures, big, successes and all that. And this is what he found, that timing is actually number one, which was really fascinating to me, right? And then he gave few examples that actually helps you, and if you look at that, funding is the last. Everyone thinks that if you have money, then you can do everything. That's not true, or ideas, actually, you might have heard about it, that ideas are pretty cheap, you can get ideas, but then execution is important. Timing. So now timing, look at Airbnb. So a lot of investors actually were skeptical about Airbnb because people didn't believe that, you would rent your house to a total stranger. That's the concept behind Airbnb. But, Airbnb, on top of having an excellent execution team, smart people, they launched the company at a really perfect timing. It was 2008. We were in recession, and a lot of people were trying to, make a little bit extra cash, you know, to survive. So it was perfect timing and it worked beautifully, right? Or YouTube, you know, before YouTube came out, actually there were a lot of other companies, you know, that were trying to do not exactly similar thing, but similar kind of business models. You know, for example, Z.com, you know, was an entertainment, online entertainment type of company. They failed because the infrastructure was not ready, right? And it was at the time, I'm talking about 1999, 2000, or before that. It was kind of difficult to watch video contents online, and companies like Z.com came and failed. But when 2003, when broadband penetration surpassed 50% in the US, and the computing algorithms and the infrastructure in terms of, you know, computing power was ready for streaming video online, you know, YouTube came out, perfect timing, worked out beautifully, right? So execution and ideas are important, but timing is actually number one. So what does this mean? That means that, you know, if you have an idea, you really need to evaluate if it is the right timing, if your clients, your customers are ready to buy such a product. And that's a very important evaluation that you should not miss. And you got to be honest about it. You know, you got to do your due diligence at the beginning. And if it doesn't work, you got to let it go. So that's really important. So now I'm going to show you maybe a few examples of what we have done in the lab to maybe try to explain further how we try to assess these matters. You know, and probably it's going to help. So back in 2014, I started my lab at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. I was an instructor, you know, just, you know, at the very earliest stage. And I had this idea that came to me through, you know, talking to clinicians and all that, that, you know, maybe, you know, the idea was to develop a device for male infertility testing at home. And I had been introduced to this problem that, you know, men contribute to infertility cases by almost 50%, but apparently they're reluctant to do fertility testing at a clinic, and the pressure has been always on women. And when men actually go through the process of fertility testing, they have an awkward experience because, you know, they have to go to these, you know, private rooms to provide the semen sample, and, you know, most of the time they do that under so much embarrassment and pressure and stress. So you know, like basically there's so much emotion around this problem, and there was a need for probably a private home-based product for men, right? So that was the problem. That was the why we need to do that, right? So it seemed like an interesting problem to me, maybe a good idea, right? And then I asked this question: Is it good timing? Is the technology there to support such product development? Are the customers really ready for such devices, right? So then that's what we did. We looked into, you know, some numbers, because, you know, we looked into the cell phone industry, what's happening. You know, if I show you, I mean, this is probably trivial to some people, but looking at the numbers actually help you to check mark something, right? This is just an example, you know, right? So when you look at the cell phone industry in 2017, you know, we had 5 billion cell phone subscribers around the globe, and it is estimated that is going to reach to 6 billion right? And by the way, so I have updated these numbers. So in 2014, there were different numbers, right? And the mobile operator revenue in 2017 was $1 trillion, and it is going to reach to $1.1 trillion by 25. And when you look at these numbers, that means that, you know, almost everyone is equipped with these really powerful pocket-sized devices that are always connected, always on, you know, and they have really a lot of powerful built-in sensors in it. And the cell phone manufacturers actually have the luxury to funnel back so much funding in their R&D and develop much more powerful, newer versions of these cell phones on a yearly basis. And in fact, you know, like a couple of years back, you know, almost every single major player in the industry actually started integrating AI software and hardware into their devices. So I think, and the reason that actually they're doing that is that, you know, we generate, I think, more than 2.5 million terabytes of data on a daily basis. So they think that they can kind of leverage this really great opportunity to you know, provide more personalized, you know, type of faster, better services to their clients and all that, right? So the point is that, you know, the technology is there, you know, in terms of cell phone based technologies, they're really powerful, you know, and it's a great opportunity to use them for developing any type of like kind of home-based type of diagnostics that you're looking into, right? So and then in terms of, so my point is that in terms of technology, we believe that it is there. Now, what about customers, right? So we did interview a lot of people, like different type of stakeholders, and we got many feedback, and these are some examples. You know, I'm going to read the first one on top left. You know, one pregnant woman who visited Brigham and Women's Hospital at, you know, IVF to do IVF, you know, and basically she became pregnant through IVF. She said that my husband dragged his feet for 9 months before he got tested. I would have easily paid $200 for this product. So we interviewed a lot of people, doctors, patients, you know, from both sides, and we received so much positive feedback. And it showed us that the customers, there is a pain, there is a need, there is a need for such a product, and that check mark another item in our category that, okay, we probably can move forward. The next question that I had, and what I'm sharing here with you guys is that, you know, probably you could use similar type of approaches, not exactly similar, but you could ask similar type of questions in order to move towards your, you know, project, right? So the next question that I had was that, okay, so this is interesting, you know, we have why, we have timing, you know, and what about market size, right? You just don't want to get into something, let me rephrase it this way, that if you want to get into something, you have to know how much it's worth it, right? And depending on that, you have to, you know, adjust your expectations, you know, and energy and everything around it, right? So then, you know, everyone thinks that you got to hire a CEO or you got to have a finance degree to do such calculations. That's not true, right? Maybe for some really complicated matters, you know, if there's a therapeutic type of company or something like that, you know, you need to do that. But at the very beginning, it's all you, right? Don't forget that. This is at the stage that you are evaluating the case, evaluating the project, evaluating your idea to make a decision. At that time, you cannot ask someone else to do that for you. unless, you know, if there are centers within your organization, you know, who can help you to make such assessments, you should do that. And by the way, we got so much help from such centers at Brigham and Women's Hospital, for example. Innovation Hub, Brigham Eye Hub helped us to do some of these assessments, right? But everything's on you basically at the end of the day. So now I'm going to walk you through what we have done, which is pretty simple, right? You know, so you can make such initial assessments pretty fast to get to know where you are. So now, for such a product, who are your customers, right? One is consumers, you know, couples who try to conceive, and men who go through vasectomy procedure, because, you know, those men, they have to get tested twice, 6 months post procedure, right? So, and unfortunately, the patient compliance is pretty poor. So such product can be used by those men to perform testing at home and send the data to the doctor and all that, the urologist who perform the surgery. The second customer is IVF labs. Next is clinicians, you know, like urologists and all that. Then you go to animal breeding, right? So it's a different market. But so if let's make it a little bit simple, you just look at the consumers, you know, the couples. Then you do search, right? It's your job, right? You know, you do all literature search and you get to some numbers. We found that 24.4 million couples really try to get pregnant in the US on a yearly basis, something like that. 10 million couples report fertility issues. That means that they try, they don't become pregnant, and they try again, so they start complaining, they start getting worried. But actually 1.1 million couples seek medical help, and 0.3 million couples use ART. These are assisted reproductive technologies, like IVF, IUI, ICSI, and all that, right? So now, if you don't want to, what do I say? You don't want to, you really want to be honest with yourself here, right? You could say that, hey, you know, my customers are 24 million couples, okay? But if you really need to be honest about it, because it's your life, you know, you want to spend your time and energy on something, so you have to be very serious. And, you know, sometimes people get an idea and then try to make it, you know, just because, you know, it's their own idea. So you have to really put your ego aside and be honest about it. So in this case, you know, we say that, okay, 1.1 million couples who actually seek medical help, these people could be our potential customers. But actually your, you know, 10 million couples who report fertility issues could be your potential customers. But in this case, you want to be conservative to find out what's going on. So you start with that number, then you use your common sense. I mean, you say that, okay, what is this? This is going to be an over-the-counter product, right? Like maybe similar to an, you know, what do you call it? Ovulation testing or pregnancy testing. So such a product, if you make it to the market, it's going to be $50 max, right? So you say that, okay, now if I make this, I have 1 million couples. If I get 100% of the market, let's say, right? You got to be really honest here again. $50, you're looking at $50 million as a market size. So now you got to ask yourself, is this attractive to who? To someone who is going to buy your company, potentially. I mean, that's probably the purpose, right? You know, like, I mean, not the purpose. My point is that, you know, at some point when we now that, you know, we have answered other questions, now you gotta be very straightforward about the finances and about the business model and all that, about numbers, right? So is $50 million market size attractive to a major firm to come and buy you. Okay, so what did I do? I didn't know if it is interesting, right? Then I traveled. I attended 2 conferences and I didn't have any presentations, nothing, right? I went to one conference in San Diego. It was, I think, point of care diagnostic, something like that. And I grabbed the chief of the point of care diagnostic division of Roche after he gave the talk, and I explained the things, and I told him what we are doing, what we're thinking, and then I literally asked this question: that is a $40 million market size, interesting to you? He was very much enthusiastic. He said that for a point of care diagnostic, this is acceptable, and your concept seems really exciting to me. And he gave me his card and he said that whenever you submit to FDA, call me. Okay, so that was a good sign, right? But based on one input, you can make a major decision. I went to a different conference which was mainly focused on fertility. It's called American Society of Reproductive Medicine annual meeting, ASRM, and there you can see all companies doing any type of work around fertility. It's a major company, a major kind of meeting and all that. So there, I met with a couple of CEOs of 2 companies who were providing similar, like microscopic based, lab based type of systems for semen analysis for IVF clinics, right? And I shared the concept with them. And I by the way, at the time I had a provisional patent, right? A provisional cover sheet, so you can do that with like something really preliminary data, right? And then I shared my concept, and they were also positive. One of them said that actually he had the idea a couple of years ago. That means that I think this was 2014, so he was thinking about it 2012. But he said he never actually pursued that concept because it was against his business, because he was, part of his business, because he was selling $100,000 microscopes for semen analysis to IVF labs, and we were talking about developing a $50, smartphone-based system for sperm concentration, motility measurement, and all that. So it was not interesting to him, right? But I got my answers, right? I realized that there is a need and there is interest around such a technology, and there is, the market size seems reasonable. So then at that time I started the project. I had, the information that I needed at the time. So I'm not saying that at the time I had all the information that I wanted, but I did my due diligence, right? Now I'm confident to initiate the project. And don't forget, I was an instructor ×0, and those who are faculties, they know that how sensitive it is to decide which direction you want to go, right? But when you make that decision, you have to commit to it, and I'm gonna talk about it probably later. So then I started the project, and this is our technology is a smartphone-based microchip technology. It's fully automated. The material cost to manufacture the hardware is less than $5. It can analyze a recorded video of an unwashed semen sample on phone in less than 5 seconds, right? And then like these are showing, here these are a couple of videos showing the quality of the data you're getting and how actually the smartphone app, identifies the movement of these sperm cells and track its movement to measure sperm concentration and motility and all that. We tested the system using 350 patient semen samples at Mass General Hospital, and compared the results with computer-assisted semen analysis, which is CASA, or manual-based microscopy. And we showed that, the system is 98% accurate in terms of identifying normal semen samples based on, WHO guidelines on sperm concentration and motility. So obviously, I'm just showing you these things. Then we moved on actually to perform a little bit more challenging problem in terms of sperm morphology. So when you do semen analysis, there are a bunch of parameters you're looking at. One, sperm concentration, how many sperm cells do you have per milliliter? Sperm motility, how many of them actually move fast around? DNA fragmentation, sperm viability, and sperm morphology. So performing sperm morphology is a little bit challenging if you want to do it automated, because depending on the shape and the size of the sperm head and neck and all that, you have lots of different categories of defects on sperm. So if you want to do it automatically using an algorithm, it's a relatively difficult job compared to just the sperm concentration and motility in terms of image processing. And we did that using machine learning. We developed machine learning frameworks for training the system, using thousands of images of sperm cells, and then tested that with clinical samples, showed pretty good accuracy and in terms of measuring sperm morphology score using patient samples and all that, right? So compared to whatever is out there, in terms of point of care semen analysis, our technology, provides the most accurate, basically, or a bunch of important, really important parameters for semen analysis, including sperm concentration, motility, morphology, and DNA fragmentation. So the point that I want to mention here is that after you do your homework, you gotta make a firm decision, and stay committed to it, because along the way, you're gonna have a lot of problems, technical problems. People will not like your idea or may not believe in it. Even your own team members, some of them may underestimate the importance of such, idea, right? And I remember that I was looking for collaborators, and first clinician turned me down. He was totally negative about it, right? I knocked the second door, knocked the third door, and then finally I found someone in a different hospital who was excited about it. Dr. John Petroza and Charlie Borman, they were great people, and we've done a lot of work together. So they took me in, and we started the work. So that means, that's the point. You do your due diligence. When you know that this is the right thing to do, what you're gonna do, you're gonna stick to it and move on, okay? So you're gonna encounter a lot of problems, but you gotta move on. And then when you pick that project and product, you basically have to be laser focused on that project 200%. And you need to do it in the best quality possible based on your capabilities. That's very important. Pick one thing and really focus on that. And if you do that, really, it's going to open many doors for you. So we focused on this, and we published, as Mohsen mentioned, we published this work at Science Translational Medicine. We got really major media coverage around it, and then that really opened a lot of doors for us. A lot of companies actually called us for different purposes, and I'm gonna tell you another example. So, for example, one company called us. They were not interested necessarily in semen analysis, but they said that, can you do similar thing for ovulation testing, right? And then that really opened a new door for us, and it was kind of easy actually to do it, right? And I'm going to show you here, so again, why? So in ovulation testing, you have 44% of all pregnancies worldwide are unintended, right? And the expenditure on birth, abortion, miscarriage resulting from unintended pregnancies have cost over $21 billion in the US alone in 2010. Okay, and previous studies have shown that family planning services alone can actually reduce unintended pregnancies by 70% or something like that. So a low-cost, simple home-based monitoring tool for family planning will really empower women in avoiding unintended pregnancies and all that. And it will be also, I think, of a great value to those parents who actually try to conceive. Okay, so the point is that we had a good why here again. What's the problem? There is a good clinical need. And why did it come to us? Because we did our first job right. At least, what I believe, right? So, and then this new opportunity showed up. And then we did that, we developed a similar system, and here we used saliva ferning for detecting ovulations. Basically, the idea is that if you ovulate, the ion concentration in saliva increases, and when you dry the saliva on a piece of glass, some sort of crystallization occurs, and then some ferning structures appear that you can detect it with imaging and all that, right? So we did that, and we tested the system with patient and artificial saliva samples. Okay, so this is not moving. Okay. All right, and we showed that it's pretty accurate system, and I'm pretty happy about that, right? So that's the point. But now the next thing is that you start something, but you need to really work hard to build trust and strong relationships with collaborators. And it's really important that you do not get trapped in just getting some pretty fast and immediate outcomes. People think about, when we're in academic, if you think about it in an academic environment, the papers, publications, who is the first author, who is the last author, and all that, you really need to think long-term with sustainable business model to generate reputation and strong collaborations. You got to give credibility to all who helped you in the process of doing what you were doing or you're doing. And after we completed our first project on using smartphones for male infertility testing, we had a much stronger relationship with our clinicians, at Mass General, and they introduced us to new problems, right? Bigger problems, bigger market, and then better opportunities, something like that, right? Like, for example, they said that why don't you come and look into our treatment processes, right? And that was a different type of project that was really, really exciting to us. And I'm going to explain a little bit, just to talk something about technical work as well. In vitro fertilization is one way of treating infertile couples, right? Or IVF. It's a great technology. Lots of people and patients have benefited from that. But one major problem with IVF is that it has a low success rate of 30%. It is expensive. Each cycle can be $7,000 to $20,000, and 45% of patients, and these are US statistics, right, have to pay out of pocket. So if you look at US alone, we have 250,000 IVF cycles per year, and considering 30% success rate, you're talking about more than $2 billion losses per year. So that's a major problem. And let me show you what happens in an IVF. You have a cohort of eggs of a patient that you inseminate them in vitro, and then you have to evaluate the quality of these generated embryos out of the eggs in vitro over a period of 3 to 5 days. And the idea is to really pick the best one or best 2 ones and transfer them back into the patient. So embryo assessment is a very critical step of an IVF procedure. But unfortunately, the current approaches to perform embryo assessment are either time-consuming, expensive, really subjective, or invasive. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, more than 80% of the fertility centers across the country in the US actually use lab-based microscopes to perform manual assessment, which is highly subjective, right? So we got introduced to this problem a few years back, and we started thinking about it, and we thought maybe we can use machine learning to actually tackle this problem, to eliminate subjectivity of the user and improve the success rate or something like that. And we moved on. We worked with 5 different centers across the country, and our primary partner was Mass General Hospital Fertility Clinic, which is among the top 10% in terms of fertility across the country. And IVF is covered. The reason that I'm talking about these is that because this is a data science or machine learning type of project. Basically, it's important to know that what kind of data we were working with. And so IVF basically is covered with insurance in Massachusetts, and so that means that we have access to really diverse set of data from different type of patients. We have large number of patient data within the system because throughout the partners hospitals we have access to we have basically more than 3,500 IVF procedures done per year, so it's pretty great. And then we moved on. I'm not gonna really, the focus of this talk is not really going through the technologies, but this is showing the structure of the network, depending on the geometry and size of different parts of an embryo. You're gonna have 86 different classes of embryos, and if you simplify that, you're gonna get into 5 classes: poor, excellent, and all that. And then it boils down to 2 main classes of blastocyst, non-blastocyst. Blastocyst means it's a good embryo, very simple word, right? And non-blastocyst is not a good embryo. So the idea in a very simple word is that you have to evaluate the quality of these embryos and find out which one becomes blastocyst or which one would have the potential to implant in the patient. And we did that with artificial intelligence using massive amount of data from different patients, that we had access to Partners Healthcare. And we showed that our AI framework actually outperformed the embryologists in terms of grading, predictions and all that, right? So, so these are just, results of what we've done with them in terms of the projects. And then, so the point is that from a small project of developing a smartphone-based system for semen analysis, that if you really look back at the time, probably that was a really small project, right? It helped us to lead into so many different directions with so many different products, different technologies, that now we either have licensed them to companies, or we have spin-offs around these technologies, and that's how things work. Now, I like to talk about a few points. First thing is that probably is useful, for some of you, is that you really need to find, get to know yourself, your capabilities, your capacities, and really the opportunities in the closed environment around you. Are you an introvert, extrovert? Are you a leader? Are you a good scientist or engineer? Are you a good programmer? Are you great in building things? Are you a good marketing person? So what is really important is that you're not going to be all of these, right? You don't need to be all of these, but you need to find out who you are, right? Just get to know yourself and try to assemble kind of a complementary team, but with the same drive and belief, okay, around the why you all have to get the job done. I think it's really, really important. You remember, like, let me tell you this, if you remember, I told you I had a mechanical engineering background and I'm not that pro in terms of programming, right? But almost all of the projects we've done over the past 5 years, it had programming involved in it. Okay, I understand it. I understand the problem. I understand the concept of the programming and everything that behind that, but I'm not a pro. But that's okay, right? You need to know who you are and find good people. But I had like this tremendous opportunity and luck, or whatever you want to call it, to work with like really, really amazing people. My students, postdocs, they've been really, really great people, and some of them, had really great beliefs, great, kind of opinions and drives that actually, so it's a mutual kind of relationship. I drive them, they drive me too sometimes. So that's really important, right? So next point is that you got to get to know the resources that are available to you whenever or wherever you are, right? And obviously your resources and opportunities in different states, different countries, can be different, but that's not important. It's just important to identify opportunity that really excites you and is available to you, and start from somewhere, start from there. Think big, but start small. When I was in Iran, I did what I could do, there, to get things moving forward, right? I worked as a piping engineer in a private firm to get some money and get industry experience. I was really hungry to learn things in engineering and work in companies, and also that helped me to get reference letters from our bosses and British colleagues that we used to work with. I worked with some of the best PIs at the University of Tehran and Polytechnic to publish a paper, to build my resume in order to be able to get fellowship. So see, like, my point is that you could be anywhere right now, but being in a different country, different state with different type of resources, you could just complain, or you could start from somewhere, right? And that somewhere cannot be, it doesn't need to be a big one, right? So but that's really important. Next point that I want to mention is that it's really important to be always alert. If you want to be entrepreneur, translational medicine type of thing, you have to be alert. And the problem is that the opportunities come and go. And the difficult thing is that when the opportunity comes, it's like a whisper, right, into your ears or something like that. And it comes from behind, or it's hard to find it, like, how can I say? So let's say, if I go back 15 years ago, and someone would tell me that, listen, you know, you're going to become an assistant professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School, I wouldn't believe it, right? But these opportunities come really, really slow, and you have to, you know, pay attention to the small things that happen and focus, right? And if I tell you right now that, hey, you're gonna have $500 million or $1 billion in 10 years, you may not believe it really. You're gonna say that you're joking. But if you really focus, if you develop companies, you work hard, slowly, slowly things happen and you become a billionaire, and that's like something that it's normal to you at the time, right? So, but I think that's really important to know that these opportunities will show up, and most of us actually don't pay attention to it. And the other thing that I want to tell you is that people actually do not care about you at all. Who cares about you, right? Everyone cares about why you're doing things, your story, and then your service and product, and how that helps them in any way possible, right? If an investor evaluates your personality, ethics, things like that, it's not because they want to become friends with you, because that's actually relevant to your business and their business and how you want to finish, you know, like some sort of technology development with them. So make sure, you know, I think it's really important that you make sure that you have a deep awareness of your ego and control it. And that's difficult. Focus on the work and technology you're developing, not on your ego. Like, I remember, you know, one day I met with an investor and I pitched an idea, and he was pretty harsh, gave me comments that was kind of embarrassing, something like that. And, you know, I listened to all what he said, right? And I modified my pitch and I got ready for the next one. Because, you know, like, you know, it's not about you. And that's really important. And I think, you know, a lot of people actually, you know, and it's hard, you know, I'm not saying that I'm now used to it and all that, right? But it's hard to, you know, not focus on yourself, focus on the technology, focus on the why and the drive, and try to adjust things around to get that job done, right? And forget about your ego. And that's difficult because it's a compromise. You have to be selfish, but at the same time, you don't have to have ego. Selfish means that, you know, you have to have that drive to get bigger things for yourself, you know, become more successful in any way that you think success matters. Is it richer? Is it fame? Is it, I don't know, like, is it helping others? It doesn't matter, you know, whatever that you define for yourself, you know, like, you gotta pay attention to that. And I think and I think that's really important. So the next thing on my list, let me look at this. Yeah, so the next thing is that you got to be really opportunistic. That means that, you know, sometimes along the way you have to work for free, really, you know, to get experience, to get lots of knowledge. You may have to work for free, or when I say free, you know, almost free, right? Compared to what people make for living, right? And you may have to become a research fellow somewhere. You may have to do a postdoc. You may have to go work for a VC as a fellow, and things like that, right? The next thing is that you gotta look outside too, right? Let's say you're a student, you're a graduate student or something like that, you work in a lab, or you're even a faculty somewhere and you have been working on a technology. So again, you got to be honest with yourself that not all technologies, even if you have an IP, will hit the market. Okay, and if you want to become an entrepreneur, and if you want to go into that route, you don't need to necessarily work with the technology that you invented, right? That might not be the best solution. So you got to be honest about that and look around and find the ones that hold great promise and build a business around it. And to do that, you can use several resources, you know, for example, a UTM, Associate of University Technology Managers Incorporation, University Tech. You can talk to your University Tech Transfer Office. You can look into NIH, other resources that are available in your country, and you can network and all that, right? Next point is that you really need to get advisors and legal counsels and lawyers. There are plenty of documents and agreements that you need to sign off, and at some point, obviously, and you must be aware of the limitations in such term sheets. You know, for example, I mean, depending on what kind of company you're going to form, is it LLC, is it incorporation? There are different subjects that you have to cover there. You know, for example, you got to sign off stock purchase agreement, founders agreement, shareholder rights, consulting agreements, and I don't think that right now I can get into the details, and I'm not probably the right person to actually get into the details around these agreements. But all I want to tell you is that these agreements, these documentations exist, and you don't hear about it in the school or things like that, but these are really, really important. And you need a lawyer. It's expensive, but it's really worth it to get someone involved early on when the time is right. Next point that I want to talk about is that, you know, you need to talk about equity and consulting agreements or kind of cash payments when the time is right. Okay, and when I say the time is right, is that, you know, like day 0 or week 1, month 1, and probably first year of starting a collaboration with a partner or a potential CEO may not be the right time to actually talk about equity, or it may be. It really depends on the technology you want to commercialize and the stage where you are. But definitely at the very beginning, you don't want to give equity that fast, because you guys have to get to know each other. It's going to be a long road and a rocky road, so you have to get along. But at some point, you need to start the discussion. This is really important. See, like let's say you have a technology, you're so excited about it, you talk with a potential CEO or another partner or something like that, everyone is excited about it, and you start the project, you move around, everyone does something, and if, let's say, you're about to close a Series A, let's say, right, it's really too late to talk about equity, because at that time, there's going to be a lot of conflicts. Everyone is going to say that, oh, I have done this much work, so I deserve this much. So, and you know, so make sure to talk about these matters, you know, at the right time, and that right time really depends on your situation. Next thing, which is going to be my last item, I believe, is that you have to do, as an entrepreneur, you know, you have to do fundraising basically all the time. And there are different avenues for that. What I'm putting here is just a few examples for those who live in the US. You know, you can look into NIH through SBIR, STTR. The good thing about those is that it's non-dilutive, and if you are at the very earliest stage, it's really helpful. but it's limited. You know, phase 1 is 250K, phase 2 around 1.5 million. So it's a good avenue to look into that. Then you have angel investors. You can get help from really experienced entrepreneurs in that avenue, but sometimes, you know, the term sheets may not be in your favor. So if particularly if the project is kind of risky, then obviously venture capitals, you know, they have deep pockets, you know, they have a lot of money, and they can back your company for several rounds, right? But the problem is that you may have to give more than 50% of the equity to the VC. So you have to really evaluate where you are, what you have, and all that. There are other avenues too. These are just few of them. Like, for example, there are patient advocacy groups. You know, there is family offices and all that. But these other ones are sometimes hard to find them. It's difficult, and you know, they have their own limitations. So this is what I all had, you know, for today talk. And you know, I'd like to just thank all my collaborators, you know, great students, postdocs that I have had the chance to work with, you know. So and without their help, it definitely wouldn't be possible to do anything. And thank you very much, everyone. And I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shafiee. It was really, really inspiring, educational, and informative, especially for the students, early career researchers, and early stage entrepreneur. And I personally learned a lot, and I was inspired by your story, and really, really appreciate it. So if you have some time, we get the question directly from the audience. I had some questions, but I'll try to get the question from audience. Before that, I would like to kind of shortly talk about our next speaker, is Dr. Kazemzadeh from Food, Drug, and Administration in US. He will talk about regulatory overview and pathways of for medical devices on next Wednesday. And I would like to thank our sponsors, Revolution Company and for Biotech to provide the support for organizing these events. So I have a couple of questions here. I'll try to. Vinci, do you want to ask your question from Dr. Shafiee? Because you wrote a couple of questions, so you can ask. Please raise your hand, and then I'll unmute you. Okay. So maybe I will ask. I will start with my own question. So you mentioned about the market size and other, and also the value proposition and the product, you know, value. So we are talking about US, North America, and developing countries. How would you customize, or how would you think about developing countries or undeveloped countries when you wanna kind of come up with these ideas in those countries?
Sure, that's a very, very good question. Okay, so basically, if let's say you are developing a technology that is mainly focused in developing countries, okay, and like, for example, one of the projects that we are working on right now in the lab is developing, you know, these portable diagnostics for HIV testing. That its application is mainly for developing countries in Africa, because, you know, unfortunately 70% of HIV infected people live in those countries where we have limited infrastructure and all that. So when you that type of, you know, business and translational medicine or commercialization type of project is much more challenging. The reason is that if you even have it, because the business model can be so different, right? So, and I'm going to explain that. So let's say you have a great product that can detect HIV with really high sensitivity, high specificity, pretty fast, low cost, even like $4 per test, right? The problem is that how do you want to make money out of it, right? So again, don't make a mistake here that when I say money, I don't mean that I as an entrepreneur in this particular case am looking into it in financially, right? But at the end of the day, you need to get money from somewhere to build the company, build the product, and sell it and return the money back to those investors with a significant margin that is acceptable to them. So now in Africa, like a family on average gets $30 per month. So then, like, even if you have a $4, and when I say $4, it's very difficult, to do $4, to develop a technology that costs $4. It's really, really hard, right? So that becomes a very challenging. And then for those cases, you got to be a little bit innovative, or you got to explore a completely different avenue. For example, in African countries, everyone pays for a cell phone subscription, but they don't pay for their healthcare, right? So, and what you can do is that because their businesses are around cell phones and using cell phones. So if you have a technology that is, using the data transfer, data usage of the cell phones, you can somehow increase the capacity of the business of the cell phone providers, in those countries, and make money through that. And I mean, like, what I'm saying, like, it's a completely different area. Now, so my recommendation, based on what I have seen, based on very, very limited experience that I have had, is that if you can, it's better that you start with a business, with a product that works in the developed country. It has a market in the developed country, right? And then move, when you have the luxury, when you have the funding, when you have the things established, right? You move on to developing countries and provide that service for those countries, right? So for doing that, you can get the information from, so first, it's important that you just focus on the developed countries, let's say for a specific product, right? In this case, let's say in our ovulation testing device or semen analysis testing device, you work on US, Europe, okay, and maybe some North and South American countries, and then build a business around it. Does it make sense?
Yes, that's great. But I think the role of also the governments and the kind of international association like WHO and other related organization also is important here, because they can provide some kind of subsidies for providing these technologies to the undeveloped countries.
Correct. You're absolutely right. Like, for example, Bill and Gates Foundation, they that's one of their avenues. My issue is that if you are dependent to the governments like that, then the risk of the business is pretty high, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, in terms of the business, I'm looking at these type of scenarios from an investor perspective, not a personal perspective, right? So, but you're absolutely right. You have to go that way, actually, for those cases.
Great. So we got a question from Andrew Song. he's a PhD student, and he wants to know when you switch or when you wanted to become an entrepreneur during your postdoc, or when you were doing. So sorry, I changed the question. When you were doing your postdoc, did you have this desire to become an entrepreneur? And
that's right. No, I got the point. You know, so that's a good question. Actually, I had the drive for entrepreneurship, you know, when I was doing my PhD. And if I want to be honest, I did not want to go for a postdoc. You know, my drive was to, you know, really establish a company, you know, early on. But when I finished my PhD, I realized that, so during my PhD, actually, I developed the technology from a proof of concept through a commercial licensing agreement. And I thought at the time that, okay, if I go to Harvard MIT Division of Health Science and Technology, you know, maybe there are better resources and I can make better technologies, more technologies, and then do spin-offs. And I remember that I started asking different people for advice that to find out if going for postdoc is going to be useful for entrepreneurial activities, and people were positive about it, and I decided to do that. And you know, so the origin goes back to when I was doing my PhD.
Yeah, that's great. So I think because the time is limited, and I know that you have other stuff after this session, so we try to stop the question here, and then I would like to thank you again for actually giving us this opportunity to listen to your inspirational story and your journey toward becoming a great entrepreneur, and also you know, it was really inspirational. So, and I would like to encourage the audience also to follow us next week, and for the talk from the FDA. And by that, if there is no other comments or questions from Mohsen and Hadi, we can close the session.
Well, I just want to thank you guys again for inviting me. It was really great opportunity, and I hope that you got something, even though if it was small.
Yeah. So another comment. So I have to also emphasize that now we got a new home. From next week, we transfer to the new platform called Crowdcast, and I would like to thank also the Montreal TransMedTech Institute to provide the support to have this new home for our e-seminars. And by that, have a great time, everybody, and see you next time, same day, for the great talk. Thank you, and bye.
Thank you.